Colorado landed five-star Cormani McClain prior to last season, and he was expected to form one of the most dynamic corner duos in the country with Travis Hunter. Unfortunately for him, he had some adjustments to make, but I think in 2024, it'll be the year of Cormani.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you may get your podcasts. So make sure to tune in, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and all that jazz. We're talking Cormani McClain today because it's a new Cormani. It's a new year, new Cormani. Obviously, when there's a new year, we always try to have a New Year's resolution, maybe eat better, maybe walk your dog more, or whatever it may be. And it seems like Cormani McClain's New Year's resolution was to be the best version of himself. I also think that stems from the fact that his freshman year, I don't want to say it was a disaster, but it was around disaster territory. And it wasn't because he didn't play very well, which honestly, he had some good moments and he had some really bad moments against Washington State. He had a bright moment against USC. He was a freshman, and it's okay to struggle right away on the field, but where it's not so okay to struggle is in the meeting room and on the classroom. And Coach Prime publicly called him out for missing meetings, being late to meetings, and all that. And obviously, it's not what you want to see from your five-star recruit who's kind of expected to form, like I said in my intro. Him and Travis Hunter were supposed to be the best duo in college football at the corner spot, and they weren't doing that. But in a recent well-off media video or a recent video of Cormani McClain on YouTube, he talked about what he's bringing to the table this season, and I think it shows just how different he is and what he learned from his freshman season. So I wanted to show you guys that because this is everything we needed to see from Cormani. Excuse me.
Staying consistent, doing the things that no one else is doing when no one is looking. Just being the better me on and off the field. To be real.
Something you want to work on for the 2024 season?
I'm working on my craft. I feel like I'm the standard. Turn on the clips, go speak for itself.
So that last part there, which obviously the whole quote was about him being the better version of himself and all that, and that's great. But he kind of threw in a little quote at the end there that had me do like a double take. He said he is the standard. And honestly, I think that is the mindset that he needs to have because last season he was the standard of what not to do. If you're a freshman, he said, and the quote was, if you guys didn't catch it, you see it. I'm working on my craft. I feel like I'm the standard. And this was asked. The question was how he sees his game change heading into year two. Obviously, he was not the standard. He was the standard of what not to do. He was the example of like there are other freshmen like Carter Stottmeyer who were starting and were not rated as highly as you because they are putting in the work, they were doing the right things, and you were not doing either of those things. And he got called out for that. Coach Prime called him out. He got some playing time. It was great. He got a start. Didn't go that well, but it was still experience. But there were still questions about, like, is he a bust? There was questions about that from year one. Now, obviously, I always said it was way too early to call someone a bust after a few months on the college campus. John Garcia Jr. from Rivals came on my show and was like, realistically, he's adapting to college. Like, that is what it is. Like, I don't think people realize that how different it is for athletes to go from the high school level where they are essentially gods or godlike, where everyone worships them. They kind of get away with everything. In high school, school's not important. It doesn't really, I won't say it's not important, but in high school, it's a lot easier to get away with things. We'll just put it that way. And then you go to college and it's like, obviously you still have responsibilities. You have responsibilities in high school, but football practice or baseball practice, whatever it may be, it's right after school. So you're already there. You just show up. College, they have weightlifting at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. They have classes from 8 to noon. They have meetings from 1 to 3. Then they have practice again. Then they have weightlifting. Then they're supposed to get in work by themselves. And if you're not doing those things, it could struggle. It can be hard. And I don't think a lot of people are really prepared to go from, I have this set thing where I do this all day, every day in high school, to all of a sudden now it's on me to get here. It's on me to wake up in time for morning workouts. It's on me to get here and do this and do that. And Cormani McClain clearly struggled with that. And he's clearly showing By him saying he's a standard, he is showing that he has made that mental switch. You could also tell in that video, if you guys are watching it, he is bulked up a little bit. He is no longer, I wouldn't say he's no longer as skinny as he was, because I feel like that's just his frame. He's a wiry guy. But this past season, he was listed at, let's see what his weight was, because he was small. They list him at 165, which he's 6'2", 165. That's obviously quite small. He was clearly the smallest guy on the field every time he was on the field. He looked probably, I would guess from that video, his shoulders looked broader. He had, the traps were popping. I would say he's probably in the 170 to 180 range now. He looked bigger, and that's what they need from him. They need him to be bigger on the field, and they need him to be bigger off the field in terms of putting in the work, putting in the efforts. And so I think realistically how poorly his first year went, combined with the fact that, and I talked about this when they landed him, Coach Prime got his replacement. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's call it what it is. By landing DJ McKinney from Oklahoma State, and even Preston Hodge, who could play some corner if possible, by landing those two guys, Coach Prime landed Cormani McClain and even Omarion Cooper's replacements. These guys were not brought in to just hang out, wear Colorado uniforms, and just kind of curate the vibes and bring in the energy. Those guys were brought in to play. Those guys are both proven starters at both of their programs that they were at, specifically McKinney, who was a starter in the Big 12 and was quite good in the Big 12. They were brought in to replace or take this spot from Cormani. Cormani is now challenged with, this is your spot if you want it, and if you earn it. If you don't earn that spot or you don't take that spot, we have guys ready and waiting for this. This isn't last season where it's like, we need you to play on necessity. We need you to play because we don't have the depth. They have depth now. They have guys. They have dudes who could come in. They have dudes who played at the college level and played well at the college level. Unlike last season where they were bringing in guys who kind of dabbled here or there with experience and kind of did not, I want to say have that experience, or did not have that necessity. Like they brought in guys who wanted to be in Colorado, but they didn't bring in guys who could be at Colorado and play right away or should play right away. Let's just call it what it is. They did not have the depth. Now they have that. And so if you're a guy like Cormani, you see the writing on the wall where, like, if I don't get my you-know-what together, there's not going to be a spot for me to start opposite Travis Hunter. There's not going to be a 5-star corner duo between Cormani and Travis if he doesn't get everything together. So I think him saying that shows that it's a new year, it's a new him, and he's putting in that work. And I firmly believe, and I've said this before, I think he's due for a breakout season. I think all the signs are there. He's putting in the work. He has the motivation. His bad year, and we'll call it a bad year. We'll call it a bad freshman year just in terms of getting publicly called out, sort of his on-field performance. He didn't have the best coverage grades and didn't have the best on-field performance, but he was young. But it wasn't the best year. I think a good freshman year could have been him working his way into the rotation, not being called out publicly, not prepared when he got onto campus, because obviously there was that adjustment period. I would say it's a rough first year. We'll call it that. But now he's learned from that, and he's showing that he knows what it takes. He knows what not to do. So now he just knows that in order to succeed, he needs to do the opposite of what he was doing. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. If you're a Cormani McClain person buying stock in Cormani McClain, if that was a possibility, I would buy stock in Cormani McClain right now, because I think his price is going to go all the way up, because I think he's going to be having a great year for the Colorado Buffaloes when they make that jump to the Big 12. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Let me tell you about our sponsors over at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. I appreciate you guys for support. We're nearing 5,000 subscribers. Let's get there. We have the smoke, Kavosiey Smoke. He wants all the smoke. He called out Sheduer Sanders for something that Sheduer said, and I think he is completely in the wrong, but I understand where he's coming from. So Sheduer recently made an appearance on Cam Newton's podcast, 4th and 1, and they were talking about why Colorado struggled. Obviously, they start off with a bang. I don't know if you guys remember, but those first 3 weeks of Colorado football in 2023 were like out of this world. Like it was like, oh my goodness, is this the best college football team ever? Obviously, that's realistically not what people were saying, but that's what it felt like. Like the buzz was there. They were excited. They were exciting. Excuse me. They were like, this team is really fun. Now, obviously, after that, they went on to lose 8 of their next 9. Not great. But there were some disagreements as to why they struggled. Coach Prime and Cooley Shedeur, had an idea of why they struggled. When he was asked why they had an issue, he said he was asked what they would do or how they would be better in 2024, and he said by having the right players. We only lost, or by having the right players. We only lost. We lost a lot of games last season because we didn't have enough dogs on the team. You understand? I'm not even a player to be talking crazy or anything like that. Now, when you got some guys on the team that can't stick up for themselves, or you got guys on a team that's not in them, you've got to become that because they're going to follow the leader, not really caring whatever it is. They're going to do it. So basically, Shedeur was saying they didn't have enough guys who were ready to be alphas. They didn't have enough guys who were ready to take it upon themselves and be like, you know what? I'm going to be a difference maker. And so he's saying they have that now. Well, Kentucky transfer running back Kavosiey Smoke obviously didn't have an impact. Let's call it what it is. His impact was more so on special teams. I was expecting him to be one of the running backs in the stable. I believe he had like 2 carries for 1 yard or like 1 carry for -2 yards or something like that. Just didn't have an impact for Colorado. Obviously, they didn't have a great run game, but he obviously didn't do enough to work himself into the running backs rotation. But he responded on social media and said, come on, fam, don't do your teammates like that, gang. We know why we lost. I mean, the world know why we lost. And so if you guys don't remember, back in, when did the season end? Like December-ish? Well, I guess for Colorado, ended in November. He was saying, Smoke was, that Colorado could have gone undefeated, but they didn't because they were selfish. Now, I think he's right about some of the fact. I don't think they were going to go undefeated. I think they had a chance to win 8-9 games had they turned things around, had they not made the mistakes they made. Now, the part that he's alluding to where they're selfish, I would say that's accurate. I think Travis Hunter in the dock, and I think Shane Cooks, both leaders on the team and 2 of the players that Coach Prime heavily relies on for leadership, they both said there's a lot of new guys here, and it was really hard to come together for one common goal. What that means, I don't know. They didn't really elaborate, but I think that means there was obviously some personal motivation. Maybe guys were there to boost their brand. When Dan Lanning said they were playing for clicks, I doubt all of them were, but I'm sure some guys were not opposed to the attention they were getting. And I'm also sure some people were not on the same page, or maybe some people kind of let their personal goals get above or become priority over the team goals. Either way, I would say the selfishness thing could be true. But I don't think Shedeur said anything wrong. Colorado realistically did not have the guys that they needed to win. Colorado had an offensive line that was, I want to say, outside of Van Wells. Yeah, outside of Van Wells, they had 4 other guys who were probably not Power 5 starting caliber players. It is what it is. They came from the group of 5, FCS, whatever it may be, and none of them will start again next season for Colorado. And I think obviously Van Wells will probably start at Oregon State. I don't know if Gerard, the Mountain, or the whatever they called him, the left tackle, I don't know if he'll start. He was not great for Colorado. Now, obviously, Oregon State has a different schedule next season, so he may be better against what is kind of a Mountain West schedule. But Colorado will not be starting the same 5 guys. It wouldn't even shock me if nobody starts from the offense line next season, because obviously Savion Washington's still there, and other guys are still in the mix. Wouldn't shock me if there's a brand new starting 5. Defense line, same thing. Even to Shane Cooks, he's a leader on the team. Don't know if he starts next season. Colorado brought in defense line that were proven pass rushers, and they brought in big body guys who played in the SEC who had some playing experience that should have a starting role for this team. So they should start 3-4 new linemen. It is what it is. They didn't have the secondary members. They didn't have a second corner to kind of pair with Travis Hunter. Or Marion Cooper played some quality snaps, but he struggled. They just did not have the linebacker performance that they needed. I still don't think they have the linebackers that they need. But this team is improved. And I think by Shedeur saying they didn't have the dogs, in a way, I think people are taking that as him saying the team was bad. And I don't think that's what he's meaning to say. I just don't think the team had enough. The team didn't have enough depth. They didn't have enough talent at certain positions. And that's not him saying the team is bad, because he said they could have won more games and they were a few plays away from winning more games. But he's saying, and this is me saying this, the team did not have what they needed mentally. The team did not have what they needed depth-wise. They were one of the few teams in college football where it's like, I think if they had to play their backups, they would get absolutely slaughtered by like FCS teams. Like that Colorado team without, say, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter. If Shedeur and Travis both missed a game at the same time, and then you took out like Xavier Weaver, Shiloh, whoever, like someone else on the defense, Jordan Dominic, whatever, that team would struggle even more. That team would win minimal games. Like if they did not have those pieces, who knows what that team would have been. This team is in a better place now. I think everyone could agree that they made the updates or the upgrades necessary. And I think it kind of sucks to hear when you're no longer on the team that, yeah, we just didn't have the right players. But I think the record indicates what you are. You're not always what your record says, but I think for the most part, Colorado kind of was last season. They were a team that was close, but not close enough to being a bowl game or a bowl team. They were a team that had potential, but couldn't live up to the potential because they limited themselves. So I understand why Smoke was mad in the comments, but I do feel like, in a way, the truth hurts. And Colorado wasn't where they needed to be last season. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Game Time. It's a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, all users can get $100 off when they buy a big game ticket with code VEGAS100. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They have zone deals where you could pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always be able to get the best price if you find tickets, in the same section or row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Right now, all Game Time users can get $100 off a big game ticket with code VEGAS100. Terms apply, or just download the Game Time app and use code VEGAS, the number 100, for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day. But we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And I want to thank you guys for supporting me. We're talking Big 12 quarterbacks. I saw an interesting tweet yesterday on the old X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And it was talking about Big 12 quarterbacks and who's the best, who's the worst, whatever that. And I just wanted to say, I think realistically, there's probably 3 tiers of Big 12 quarterbacks. And I would say Sheduer Sanders is in that top tier. So here are my tiers. This quarterback can take you as far as your team can go. AKA the best quarterbacks in the conference. So I would say there's probably 4 of those in this conference. I look at Noah Fida from Arizona. I look at Cam Rising from Utah. Even with coming back from the injury, he hasn't played a meaningful college football game in 2 years now. Well, it will be 2 years. He hasn't played since 2022. Jalen Daniels at Kansas State, who I think is a game changer, just needs to stay healthy. And then also, make sure I'm not missing anybody, KJ Jefferson is at that level as well. I think he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. So then that's my tier 1. Tier 2 is like, they're good, could be great, but not yet great. So that reminds me of a guy like Avery Johnson from Kansas State. Sorry, I'm scrolling through my list here. Avery Johnson, Baron Morton from Texas Tech, also Garrett Green from West Virginia. And I think you could also throw in a guy like Alan Bowman, or maybe an Alan Bowman. I would say he's a borderline tier 2. So tier 1, Sheduer and those guys. This is tier 2. And then tier 3 is not good enough. I want to say it's not good enough, but they're not these top tier guys. And I feel like there's still questions around them. I think if there was a better quarterback on the roster, they could lose their starting spot. That would be Josh Hoover at TCU. That would be Rocco Becht at Iowa State, Zion Chris at Houston, Brendan Sorsby at Cincinnati, Gary Bohannon at BYU, and DeQuan Finn at Baylor, Jaden Rashad at Arizona State. When I look at this group of Big 12 quarterbacks, I think a lot of people are like, they have talent, and I'm not going to take that away from them. They do have talent. I think there's a lot of potential in this conference. I think there's a lot of unproven quarterbacks in this conference, but Sheduer Sanders stands out amongst all of them because he's just he's just a dog. And obviously that's not a crazy breakdown, but he's consistent. He's reliable. He has a big arm. He has that big play threat with his arm that not many of them have. I think Noah Fifita is probably the second best quarterback in the conference, but I think Shedeur Sanders by far and away is the best quarterback in the conference. Now, I think a lot of people are getting on him for his issues with the choice routes that Sean Lewis was running, and him saying that he didn't like those because that kind of people are kind of twisting and saying he can't read a defense. But Sheduer Sanders is a great leader. He has a huge arm. He's clutch, and he's much more mobile than people realize. He got clocked at 20 miles per hour last season, which is pretty fast. If you're not familiar with how fast humans can run, that's up there. I think realistically in the Big 12, for him to kind of cement himself, he needs to obviously be sacked less. Now that goes with the offense line, but he needs to make smarter decisions. And now that the offense has changed a little bit, all the decisions are on him. So last season it was on the receivers and in a way where they had to make the correct choices on the routes. But this season, from what I've gathered, from what he said, it's going to be him making the right reads on the defense. So it's going to be full Sheduer Sanders. So all the reads are his. It's not the receivers. It's not the coordinator or whatever. He's going to go up to the line of scrimmage. He's probably going to have full autonomy to make make the play call changes. So this is the moment for him to kind of assert himself as the best quarterback in the Big 12 and maybe in the country, because I think we're having I won't say a down year for quarterbacks, but this past season we had Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels, Shedeur, Quinn, all these guys. They had all these guys, and I feel like now we're kind of looking for like who's going to be the best quarterback. Drake May was there as well, and it's Spencer Rattler was a good quarterback, and it's like who's going to cement themselves as a top quarterback. And I think Sheduer Sanders is the best quarterback in the Big 12. And like I said yesterday, I think he has a chance to kind of set Colorado up for years to come. I think his quarterback play can help pitch Colorado to future quarterbacks, and I think it can help his father's program kind of sustain success for years to come if he does well. But I do think he's the best quarterback in the Big 12. I think he's just the total package. I think all these other quarterbacks, Jalen Daniels, injury issues, KJ Jefferson, can he be a clutch passer all the time? He's a great athlete that can throw, but can he be that clutch passer all the time? No Fifita. What is he going to look like with this new offense? Zion Chris, Rocco Bet, Garrett Green for Zion Chris. Can he play at this level? Same thing with DeQuan Finn. Can he adjust to the Power 5 level? Alan Bowman, is there another level for him? Cam Rising, is he the same quarterback? I think Sheduer Sanders is not only the most proven, but I think he has the highest ceiling that we haven't even seen yet. So you guys comment below where you think Sheduer ranks in the Big 12. And you also kind of give me another quarterback who you think could be at that level with him, that tier 1 level. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, give me 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts. We couldn't do it without you guys. We're nearing 5,000 subscribers. Let's get there. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys have a great Thursday.